Ilan Rubin, what is going on, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. How are you?
I am doing excellent. So I want to say, first of all, congrats on your win. I saw on your Instagram, Legend of Zelda.
No, thank you.
Congratulations, you finally beat
Like
it.
I was like, what did I win that I didn't know about? Now, I would just like to correct that statement. I have beaten it numerous times throughout my life.
Oh, really?
But
Okay, okay.
this is the only time I beat the whole thing without losing once. It was pretty momentous.
Okay, so you knew like where to go and like
Oh yeah.
everything.
Now,
Okay,
here's
okay.
the thing. I used to play a lot of video games when I was a kid, and that kind of stopped around 12 years old, where I was like, I need to grow up and stop wasting time with these childish games. I need to focus on music. And, it was absurd for a 12-year-old to just feel that way and donate all of his video games and stuff. But there is something about those original NES or Super Nintendo games that to me is incredibly nostalgic. So
Yes.
if occasionally I'm in a mood to just kind of, sit in an old memory of joy, I can put on, play any one of those games and just have a nice time. And because I know them well, because they're seared into my mind from childhood, I know it's not going to take me a lot of time.
That's
Whereas
true. Yeah.
my wife and I, she actually had a very similar sort of moment in her life where she grew up playing video games and she decided to stop. So her and I kind of
Hmm.
every now and then was like, you know what? Let's have some guilt-free video game time. And we played newer games, and I'm like, this stuff is so vast and deep. I'm like, I can't spend more time doing this. But
Oh, yeah.
last night I went down memory lane, and she's like, "You coming to bed?" I was like, "You know what? I'm having quite a run right now. I can't stop this." And then 2 hours later, she's like, "Are you still there?" I'm like, this is pathetic, but I haven't died yet, and I can't stop. And a man on a mission. I had to do my duty,
You're on a roll. I mean,
and
you
I
can't
did.
stop then. It just dawned on me. I have no idea how old you are.
I'm 34.
I'm 32. Okay, so I'm just right behind you.
There you go. Yeah. So I'm weird. What can I say? Always have been, always will be.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I kind of also had my moment of like, why am I still playing video games? Probably at like maybe like 16. I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Like, it's a
You know,
beautiful day outside. Like, my friends are texting me. Like, why am I playing this game?
it's funny because I had a very distinct moment where the first band I was ever in with my older brothers and their high school friends, or probably at that point college friends, but we did a recording session in San Diego where if you were to pay for a block of time that was like 8 p.m. to 6 in the morning when nobody wanted to record, it was cheaper. So we
Mhm.
recorded then, and I just recall getting back home at 7 in the morning or 7:30 after having been up all night, and I went straight to the TV to play something, and I'm like, what am I doing right now? I've just been doing stuff, and I had to come right back here to sit in front of the TV and play. I'm like, that's enough. And that was some weird turning point. I don't
Yeah,
know if it's for better or worse, but something clicked. But every now and then, it's nice to just kind of zone out and.
yeah. So I have a buddy of mine, Tommy Tellerico. He's got this show that he puts on called Video Games Live. It's pretty intriguing. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Are you trying to steer my career into that of a gamer? Is that what's happening here? Is this like a
Hey,
pitch?
maybe you never know. Have you ever been like approached for making music for games or anything like that?
No, I mean I've heard it's fun. I'm actually in the middle of working on my fourth film project, which is why everything's a mess and there are papers everywhere and
Oh,
instruments. But
okay, sweet.
I've heard that the writing for games is pretty different, and I find it intriguing, but I haven't been approached. I've been approached to play on a video game, but not as a composer. I played drums on Cyberpunk.
Did you really?
Yeah, I played drums on that. I've never
Oh,
played
wow.
the game. I
Sure.
know all the hype that surrounded it and the disgruntled gamers with some sort of bug when it finally came
Oh,
out.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I never played it. So, I mean, it was fun, but even with that minimal experience, I was playing who knows how many beats, tens of beats, could have been 100 beats at different tempos. And then they kind of just did their thing because what's weird is even in the few more contemporary games that I've played, you kind of hear when things are looping. And I guess you have to
Hmm.
write music in a way that is designed to loop, but then smoothly transition into something else as the game develops or as you go to a new space or a new scene or whatever it may be.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm intrigued by the process, but I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Gotcha. And maybe to back up a little bit, you were like pretty much like a prodigy, like when you were
Well,
a kid.
I did start. I started very young. I
Yeah.
had the fortunate combination of natural talent paired with an obsessive personality. So the second I dove into drumming in particular, but music as a whole, I never looked back, and that has been the thing
Hmm.
that has taken up 90 some percent of my mind since I was 7.5, 8 years old. So I
Hmm.
did. I did accomplish something. I'm still proud of to this day. But some of the drummer nerds would know this. But there's a. Are you a drummer by any chance? Musician?
I am a former drummer. Funny that you
Uh,
ask.
well, you probably know about Modern Drummer then. I take it the magazine. You know, the
Um,
thing that you probably see at Guitar Center but never wanted to buy because you're like, why am I going to read about
I
drums?
think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I was 12, I won their best undiscovered drummer in the world competition in the 18 and below category. I did that when I was 12, and that was something I'm still proud of because it's the older I get, the crazier it seems.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
but it's obviously another lifetime ago. But that would be an indicator of spending a good amount of time working on my craft as a youngster.
Do you feel at all like maybe you missed out a little bit? Like growing up, like did you go to like high school or
I did go to high school, but
okay.
actually, that's a good question because I went for a while. But this is a very good question, and to answer in a broader sense, no, I don't feel that I missed out. In fact, I think that I gained far more than anybody would have by certain stages in life, and that has a lot to do with how prepared I was and how seriously I took the experiences and opportunities that either came my way or that I worked towards. And what I mean by that is I grew up, as I said, the youngest of three, and my parents were and are super supportive of music. So I wasn't encouraged to begin with in the sense of, hey, you should try playing music. But the second that my dad, who's a musician in the family, realized that I had something as simple as just rhythm and recognized that I wasn't just hitting drums and making noise, he then encouraged me because he saw how much I was enjoying it. And once he started teaching me things and I picked them up very quickly, I suppose it was one of those things for my parents where it seemed like it would have been a huge disservice to me if I didn't pursue something that I'd picked up so naturally. Almost
Hmm.
a waste of sorts. But that being said, they were adamant that I did well in school. They were adamant I did not misbehave or take everything as just fun and jokes. They're like, you can pursue music, but you need to realize that it's not just fun. It will be a career. It's a business. It needs to be taken
Hmm.
seriously and respected. So I've never had a. I'm just going to sound boring to any listeners here, but I've never been the rebellious type. So I followed the rules. I worked, and I progressed. So to answer your high school question, by the time I was just about to start my second semester of sophomore year, so this was still just the very end of my first semester, I had to check out into a homeschooling program. Now, this was an accredited institution that, for example, child actors or people who have careers at early phases in life still need to get their academics and their studies taken care of. So my parents were adamant that I did not get my GED and test out, or that I went to some easy sort of yeah, here's your diploma. So they
Hmm.
insisted on an accredited institution and that I graduate with honors. But by that point, I had to do it because I was touring too much. So my
Hmm.
first sort of actual 2 3 week stint happened when I was probably around 13, the summer of eighth grade, maybe. But by freshman year and sophomore year, I was out for weeks at a time. And the arrangement with the school was that I could leave for 3 weeks at a time, but I had to come back to turn in my work and get a new batch of coursework. And I couldn't abide by that by the end of my first semester in sophomore year. So I checked into homeschooling and I finished earlier.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was just out and doing it. And, I can see how certain people would perhaps ask the question, do I feel like I missed out? And from my perspective, I don't know how you could feel like you're missing out when you're, at that time traveling the country. The first international tour I ever did was Japan when I was 15 years old. And I'm
Wow.
out doing these things when kids are worrying about that math test that they don't want to take on Monday.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
That's a really good way of putting it. It's like, well, I have my whole life and career over here, and you've got, high school, which is,
mhm.
4 years. And now here you are working on, you said, your fourth movie?
Yeah,
Holy
yeah. Now,
smokes.
we can get into that later if you'd like. But yeah, scoring was
Sure.
something that I was finally able to dive into as a result of the world ending a couple of years ago.
Okay, last high school era question. Did you end up going to prom?
No,
Okay.
it's really odd, but I do recall I did go to, so when I was still physically going to high school, I did go to one sort of winter formal and it was such bullshit. I hated it. It was
Oh
not,
no.
it was just, I mean, nothing bad happened. It's just one of those things where you feel like you should go, oh, this is part of life. Went to it. I'm like, this is stupid. People in shitty rented formal wear having
Yeah.
that. This isn't fun. It's not fun at all. So that was that. And certainly from that point forward, I definitively realized I did not care about any sort of, social high school must do's in life. I did not care the slightest about prom. I don't even know when prom was, but I do recall putting in the effort to wake up at 6 in the morning to go watch my friends graduate on the old college football field down the street where I grew up. And like, well, good stuff, guys.
Man, so like right from the beginning, you like pretty much had a good idea of what you wanted to do then.
Absolutely. In fact, I can't seriously recall a time in life when music wasn't the thing I wanted to pursue. I mean, of
Mm.
course, there are the couple of handfuls of pre-music memories, but
Yeah.
they're almost nothing in comparison to the rest of life.
Mhm. So
Yeah,
here's something I noticed about you. You play the hi-hat with your left hand.
that is something.
Like, how do you like where did that like how did that even like occur in your mind? Because I was like, wait a second. No, that actually makes way more sense. So you're not crossing your arms. But I've never
Well,
seen anybody do that ever.
there are a few people who do that, and I have to
Really?
admit, even when I see it, sometimes it looks awkward to me when I see other people do it.
Okay.
But yeah, it does make a lot of sense, and it came from being a naive 8 year old, where my dad taught me something and said, "Practice that, and come back into the house and get me when you think you got it." So while he was gone, I was playing it, and I'm like, "This is closer. Why would I do this?" And I did,
Yeah.
and it was natural. And I brought him back in, and he had a puzzled look on his face from what I could recall, where it sounded right, but it didn't look right. Well, what's more important? Obviously it's sounding right. So he took me probably a few months later to a Dave Weckl clinic. I don't even remember what the music store was in San Diego, but during the Q&A portion of the clinic, my dad asked him, and he said, let him do whatever he wants, whatever comes naturally. Now, the thing that is odd about it is that it's not a matter of me being a left-handed person. The only things I do left-handed are hit the hi-hat and write. Everything else, I
Hmm.
am right-handed. I play the rest of my instruments right-handed. I kick with my right. I throw with my right. I play tennis right-handed. So that doesn't make any sense. And as a result of being somewhat in this ambidextrous world, there are plenty of things that feel just as comfortable leading with my right hand, which is why I have my primary ride on my right side. So
Hmm.
most of the times when I'm playing on the ride, I'm right-handed. When I'm on the hi-hat, I'm left-handed. I start a lot of fills either left or right, depending on what type of fill. So there's just a weird sort of coordination hybrid that
Sure.
out naturally.
So can you like interchange then? Like right.
Yeah,
Oh, really? Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, but playing right-handed properly will never feel as comfortable as playing open-handed because this whole thing doesn't. That's the thing that doesn't make sense. Here I
Yeah.
have complete freedom. So, but playing on the ride, I love it, and that's why I ride and I crash mainly as a right-handed player.
Yeah, you can just go crazy on the Crash or China Boy. Is it still called the China Boy?
I've never heard the boy, but
Oh, really?
it 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 is a China. I haven't had one of those since about 2008.
Okay. Maybe times have changed and I should stop saying that.
No, I don't even own one anymore.
Oh, really? Maybe they're out of style.
Maybe maybe they
Ugh.
just became so metal. I was like, we might need to part ways. Not that there's anything wrong with metal, but I
Yeah,
just
maybe it just became so niche,
yeah.
I heard you I was listening to a couple of podcasts and you said like right before you play, doesn't matter where you are, you always get anxiety right before you play. Like, has that ever gotten better?
It does. Now,
Hmm.
I need to be clear. You're correct, but it's not a sort of stage fright. It
Okay.
that in fact I feel comfortable when I'm finally on stage. It's
Hmm.
leading up to the stage that drives me insane because you got to think psychologically. Let's say you're on tour, right? Have you ever toured? Maybe you have, and I'm just going to go
I've
on about something you already know.
I've been on long road trips, but no, I've never been on tour.
Well, it's the sort of thing where you're at a venue and you know that in 10 hours you're going to play a show. And then 5 hours pass by and you're like, oh, in 5 hours I'm going to play a show. And then in four, and then in three, and then in two. And then that last hour when you're actually kind of in that mode of, okay, it's finally going to happen. There's just this nervous energy that's been pent up all day. It's more of like
Mm,
it's more of like an anticipation that drives me nuts.
okay.
Whereas if at any point in the day somebody tapped me on the back and said, it's time to go play, I'd be like, great, let's do it. But the waiting and the anticipation drives me nuts. So it does get better as a tour progresses. But for example, when Nine Inch Nails started playing shows, probably about halfway through this year, maybe a little bit before, it was the first time Nine Inch Nails had played in almost 4 years, I think, or maybe about
Oh,
4 years.
really?
Yeah, it had been a while. And
Wow.
I had played with Angels and Airwaves in 2021, but between that, if you haven't played a show in 8 to 10 months, that's a long time. You're not,
Hmm.
once you're on stage, you pick up where you left off. But the traveling and the waiting around, that's something that once you're out of that mode, you kind of have to get back into it.
Hmm.
It's not like playing where your body just goes and you know what you need to do. But that being said, once you're on tour, and the second night and the third night and fourth night, so on and so forth, it then becomes a routine that you're used to.
Okay.
But that hour is
Gotcha.
all my least favorite. I hate it.
So, tour life, like, what do you like? How do you prefer to travel? Like, what do you do when you're on the road for, 10 hours a day or whatever it is? Like, what do you like? How do you spend your time?
My preference is irrelevant. I do what they tell me to do. Whatever the team's doing, that's what I'm doing. It's honestly dependent on the band. It's also dependent on the type of shows. And what I mean by that is like, for example, take the Angels tour I was talking about in 2021. The whole thing was buses, and I love riding on a tour bus. I love the rocking motion of just driving. Puts me to
I
sleep.
suppose, yeah. Huh.
And some people hate it. I feel bad for those people who just can't sleep on a bus. Now, I have either some weird superpower or a disorder where I can fall asleep anywhere, almost at any time. So I just go with the flow and there's no problem. So I like that. But the nail stuff this year was very sort of piecemeal, where there wasn't a long tour at any point. It was like 3 to 5 shows here, 3 to 5 shows there, a couple weeks there, and as a result of that, you spend more time flying than you do driving. That being
Okay.
said, I've done the complete opposite, where when I've been out with my own band, it's 3, 4 guys in a van, and it's endless highways through the U.S. and could be fun, could be boring, depending on who you're talking to.
Hmm.
You know, so
Do you bring like any books like to read with you or anything?
I do. When I so here's what's funny: when I'm out, say touring my solo stuff, I don't have room for anything. In which case, the iPad is my best friend because I can put all the books I want, so on and so forth. Of Nine Inch Nails, for example, we all have wardrobe cases. They're these big, big road cases. Now, I pretty much wear this all the time. So it's just this big empty box, which is where I get to bring back my treasures from the road. Could be books, could be bourbons or scotches, depending on where I'm at. Could be instruments that I've picked up along the way. So I have this sort of traveling case that I just fill with whatever it is that I acquire while I'm out. But if I don't have that, the books are pretty much on the iPad.
Okay, that
But
makes
I
sense.
do prefer paper. Always prefer paper.
Same here. I'm starting to get a small collection. This is my most recent one here. Let me grab it. If you're into like human behavior and everything, excellent book. It's called Behave: The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst. I'm only like halfway through it so far because there's a lot of like medical terminology that I am not familiar with, but yeah, it's definitely worth a read. It
Small
kind of
thing.
goes into like the nature versus nurture argument, why certain people turn out the way they do. It's really, really interesting.
I wrote it down because that seems interesting because I feel like people are just getting shittier and shittier and dumber by the day. I don't want that to sound pretentious or like I'm on some sort of high horse parked
No,
in my
yeah, I know what you
but
mean.
oh, I think
Yeah.
the internet is just melting brains left and right.
Yeah, well, it's like part of the reason I bought it is sort of that reason. It's like how does somebody end up like committing horrible crimes and yet they have like a brother who is like an engineer who's, really successful. Like how does that happen?
Yeah. Do you seems like you might enjoy some of the Malcolm Gladwell books. Have you heard of him or his stuff?
I don't think so.
Outliers is a good one. David and Goliath. Just
Okay.
very interesting. You'll kind of find an intriguing question like you just asked. Why do some people do this and some people do that? And that'll be the premise
Yeah.
of whichever book he's written. And they're fun, easy reads. They're enlightening in some ways and entertaining to say the least.
Okay. Hell, I'll definitely have to check that out.
I wrote
Uh,
Behave down. That sounds good.
okay, so let's switch gears here a little bit. Okay, so on Instagram, I asked you guys out there if you had any questions for Alon, and this is what we got. I pared it down to the best like four. I got eight. What's that?
50% didn't make the cut.
Well, I mean, like, was like somebody asked how big. I'm like, I'm not gonna him that. Like,
Was this a male
yeah,
or female?
male.
Hmm. I think it was a Blink fan. Be my guess.
Yeah, no kidding. That's like a whole nother thing we can get into, like
That's the Tom
infatuated, like
DeLonge denomination.
yeah,
That sounds like DeLongite.
the Tom DeLonge denomination. That is a that's a
Yeah.
great religion. All right.
Mm,
First question is, what is it like to work with Trent Reznor?
it's great.
It is great.
uh, I love these like these grand questions that could just be answered in one word. Great.
It is good.
Yeah, I mean, you are very knowledgeable in terms of other podcasts or interviews that I've done, so I'll try to switch some words around so it doesn't sound like
Well,
something you've heard.
I
But
mean, I like to low level creep, you know.
uh, it is great. I get along with Trent really well. I admire and really respect his work ethic, and I'm not saying this is some sort of backhanded pat on my back, but leading up to my joining of Nine Inch Nails in 2009, I'd already been in my fair share of bands, and known a good handful of extremely unprofessional, ungrateful musicians who had either gotten somewhere by luck and didn't appreciate it, or couldn't figure out why they weren't pursuing past a certain point, all while being incredibly unprofessional and many times unintelligent. So by the time I joined Nine Inch Nails and I saw the way Trent sort of ran the operation, I just remember having a huge sigh of relief, not because I didn't expect that, but because I had finally arrived in an environment where I was like, oh God, finally like-minded people who expect excellence, work towards excellence,
Hmm.
and know what they want. And it's always been that way. And it's coming up on 14 years now. Uh, no, yeah, 13, 14 years. I mean, I joined when I was 20. That's why I'm having a tough time doing the math. But, if we go off of 20 and I'm 34 now, it's 14 years. But, you know,
2009 was 14 years ago.
yeah, somewhere around
Oh
there.
no. What is
So,
happening?
yeah. So yeah, I love it. And there's nothing like a Nine Inch Nails show in particular. And we put a lot of work into rehearsing to get that show up and running. But just as an experience, it's an onslaught. And to be a part of that is great. And I always appreciate it. And I always have a tremendous amount of fun and satisfaction from being a part of that.
Dude, it's so like satisfying and like you can almost like let out relief when you find someone who like gets you and like gets your own kind of personal philosophy. It's just kind
Mhm.
of like, all right, yeah, we're gonna be friends.
Yeah.
Like, like
Yeah.
I can do this.
And that goes for everybody in the band. We all get along extremely well, and it's just a good time.
All right, next question. Do you have a favorite show or place that you've performed?
So you mean like my favorite TV show and then my favorite venue?
Yes.
Uh, I don't have a favorite show. I have moments that are burned in my memory, but it's not necessarily a show in particular or because of a venue. I mean, right now what's coming to mind is surprise, surprise. Last time we played London this last summer, I finally succeeded through a channel of people to get Jimmy Page to a show, guitar player from Led Zeppelin.
Mm,
And for me, being able to play in front of my hero, that moment in time will always be burned in my brain. That venue also is Brixton Academy. I had my 18th birthday there playing a show.
oh, really?
That's a reason
Wow.
why that sticks out to me. Or playing a place that my heroes have played, whether it be Earl's Court in London or the O2 in London. I mean, all my heroes pretty much are British gods. So anytime I've sort of performed in their footsteps or in front of them, that's been a momentous occasion for me. But, bringing it to the North American continent, Red Rocks is always a beauty. It's a just fantastic place to play. And a lot of festivals, there's nothing quite like a great festival show because you can just be inspired by not just the crowd of people, but how well the event is put on. There's just a different sort of headspace where, as opposed to going from venue to venue and sitting in a dressing room, you're in the middle of this beautiful field. Oftentimes, like say a nice European
Mm.
festival, like Pink Pop or Reading and Leeds, you're just in the middle of the outdoors, which is, I mean, American festivals have been growing in number over the last decade or so, but I think for a long time that has been primarily a European thing, and more often than not, or often enough, I should say, those
Mhm.
shows have proven to just be very memorable.
Yeah, I suppose if you see kind of a sea of people like and it's kind of dark every night, like seeing something open and that's bright. Yeah, I guess I never even thought about that.
And I mean, here's one that sticks to my mind, and it has nothing to do with the show itself, the
Sure.
by the performance, I mean, but my first time ever in Austria, which has become potentially my favorite place on earth. I played this festival called Frequency Fest or Frequency Festival. I don't know, but it was in the middle of these mountains, this like almost alpine retreat looking place, just a 10-15 minute drive from Salzburg. And for me, that was momentous because that's where Mozart was born, and he is a true musical hero of mine. And I love his as well as his music as well as many other composers. But I'm here to play a show, yet I'm in the middle of one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and I'm getting to go visit the birthplace of
Yeah.
possibly the greatest musical mind of all time in one of the most stunning landscapes I've ever seen, and I'm there because of a show that I had to play later in the evening. So that whole day is something I will always remember. And I was there for a concert, but ironically, the concert is not the thing that sticks out to me, you know? So, and it was also a great coincidence because it was his 250th anniversary of his birth in,
Oh wow.
he was born in 1756. So I'm like, what are the odds that I'm here on this sort of momentous year where the whole town is just celebrating this guy, which they usually are anyway, but the 250th made it.
Yeah. So this next question plays a little bit into what you're sort of saying right now. What is the meaning of life?
Man, if I had the answer to that, I, I don't know where I would be right now. I'd probably be on a bookstore somewhere, fixing people's lives for a hefty price. Oh,
Well, you are handy.
yeah, that's true. That is very true. If the answer to life or the meaning of life is putting up shelves well, I can definitely point you in the right direction. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be able to give a sort of unique or novel perspective on this, but you know, if you look at life in the sort of Viktor Frankl philosophy, finding what your true calling is could be the meaning to life. You know, you can be happy if you're satisfied with what you're doing. And if you're happy, satisfied what you're doing, the odds of you finding like-minded people you can spend the rest of your life with, I should say, is the odds are higher. So there you have it. Find what you truly feel is your calling and run with it.
There you go. And the final question takes a complete 180.
Uh-oh.
Who would win in a fight, Clint or you? I don't think I could. I think you would win. I don't think I could take you.
You're intimidated by me, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the patchy facial hair, huh? This is what's making.
well, I mean, if just looking at photos of you, you seem kind of like stoic, and it's like, yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. Like, no, thank you.
Great. All right, I'm gonna go upstairs and tell my wife that I'm stoic. Who are you talking to right now? Who's filling your head with this nonsense?
All right, now I got some videos I want to show you.
All right.
All right, so it is video time. Okay, here we go. You ready for this? The one and only Danny DeVito playing the drums, probably my favorite drum solo of all time.
11 seconds of glory.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm taking these.
I mean, that's the way you do it.
Beautiful.
You know, I'd be a liar if I said it wasn't that easy.
So speaking of the new regime, dude, you have a song that is a banger. Do Right By Me.
I try to get a hold of you, but you shut me out. The only thing I wanna do.
Thank you. Yeah, that whole album is a heartbreaker for me. I spent a good amount of time putting together my largest piece of work. It's a lengthy album. I mean, the deluxe has 20 songs on it. And the reason why it was so lengthy is that it wasn't a double album, although there's more than enough material for that. But we released it in sort of quarters, like 4-song EPs that would come out every couple of months, so that at the end of it, you had this one giant piece of work. Now, the sad part is that it came out in March of 2020. So finally comes out, and the world ends. Was literally on tour and had to drive home because the country, the world shut down. So that period, I'm like, all of this effort and time into something that is just non-existent at this point. You know, so that was unfortunate, but I think it's a great album. I'm very proud of it.
What's going on with Angels and Airwaves?
Hey man, you know, as good as I do. You know, what's funny is that Tom and I have actually I've seen Tom more in person in the last 4 or 5 months than I have seen him outside of a band setting since I've known him.
So, oh, really?
Yeah. So Tom and I get along great. Always in touch, at least every couple of weeks or so. I mean, when I say in touch, I mean the transferring of some stupid video of some kind. But still in touch nonetheless. And obviously with him rejoining Blink, which I congratulated him on, of course, he's just been focused on that.
Okay.
As he should be. I think the tour dates that they already announced for next year are quite hefty, especially for a band who I don't think has been out that much in a long time. But
yeah,
it's already been a tremendous success, and they haven't even hit a note yet. So I think the tour's going to do incredibly well. How can you not enjoy that? And I'm glad he and they are doing it.
Yeah.
I always find it bizarre that for some reason or another, there was a hiatus, or there was him not being there for a few years. I'm just
right. Yeah.
How difficult could it be to really get this thing together? Now, I am by no means a therapist or psychologist of any kind, but I'm like, no brainer. Of course, if you're all into doing it, you should do it. You should have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, don't understand that, but I'm happy they're doing it, and a lot of people are obviously happy about it. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see them all, happy and healthy, and finally back together again after a while.
Yeah, I will say though, I've never truly been in a 3-piece band. That has to be a weird power dynamic.
I suppose,
yeah. I'm not saying this based on anything Tom has told me. I'm actually saying it. I mean, The Police is one of my favorite bands, obviously a 3-piece. And because you got to think about it, that triangular force, it's either every man for himself or 2 on 1. Oh, Cream as well. Cream is another one of my favorite bands, and that was the original power trio, if you will. And yeah, it's either each man for his own, as that band was, 2 on 1, as it has been in other groups, but that's got to be more difficult than being in a 4 or a 5-piece, or just a solo artist.
Yeah. What else did you say? I think it was on a live. Like, Blink fans have like a very high infatuation for the band.
It's unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, hold on. So, coming back to this book of like human psychology. Do you think that's because lots of teens discover that band while their hormones are going, crazy in their bodies, and everything's changing, and they find this band that releases what's the pleasure chemical in your brain? I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Serotonin.
Serotonin. No, I don't know if it's oxytocin. I don't know what it is, but it could be that dopamine. Yeah, it could be that every time they hear like a track they like, they get a little shot of dopamine. So as the years go by, that could always stay with them. That's my own, theory.
That could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of Blink that a lot of people or so many other bands don't have is that there's this element of humor that is almost
that's true,
a part of the music itself. And as a result, I think that does tie into what you're saying, where it's music that kids like, and it's music that teenagers like when it was around, and now those teenagers are adults, and those adults are showing their kids the music they listened to when they were teenagers, and that cycle keeps perpetuating itself. But because humor is such a big element of the band, I think they've had a a sort of unprecedented amount of success in that genre and almost defining a genre.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
But as a result, you get fully grown men who respond to your, what question should I ask him? And he goes, how big is his dick? I'm like, oh my goodness.
I'm just like, what?
What's weird, and I've told Tom this. I'm like, dude, I've been in Nine Inch Nails for however many years it was at the time. And I'm like, Trent is a dude who is incredibly respected and people have obsessed over him. The band predates Blink by almost a decade, somewhere around there. And I'm like, there's some weird fanaticism with Blink fans where it's unreal. And here's a shitty story that just kind of puts you in the mindset of what I'm talking about, where this sort of, I wouldn't call it a destructive obsession. Again, not a psychologist or anything. But there was a time, it could have been 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. There were a bunch of fires in San Diego. And I don't know if this was when Blink, or when Tom was still with Blink, or after he was with Blink. And these are things that you see on comment sections. Anybody can look through a comment section to verify where I'm coming from here. But this story in particular, a quick video was taken of them literally evacuating this building, the studio, kind of getting the favorite pieces of gear out because, hey, you never know, the building might end up in ashes, on the ground. And somebody's like, I hope your studio burns down so you can get back to Blink. I'm like, that's one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's that sort of darkly obsessive thing, ironically, over such a happy-go-lucky band. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really read comments. I'll like skim them, but most of the time I don't need to.
Unfortunately, I'm a magnet for comments.
Oh no.
They are train wrecks. It's a bad habit, but I really think for a good portion of society, the portion that hides behind computers,
the keyboard, yeah,
and their voice is the keyboard, which is a big part of the demographic. It is just, it's dark out there, and I look at it. It's like it's a train wreck. I can't look away.
Have you had any conversations with Tom about aliens? Because I mean, I saw his Joe Rogan interview.
Which, by the way, I think Joe Rogan should apologize to him. He was kind of a dick.
Oh, was he?
I thought so. I mean, I don't think it was perhaps the wisest decision.
Oh, you know what? I know you're talking about. Yeah, where you talked about him afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Yeah, that was in poor taste.
To go on a very well-known podcast with an enormous viewership to talk about things that you are legally unable to discuss. So you can take that one of two ways. He's telling the truth and he can't say these things, or he's lying and he's bullshitting and he has nothing to talk about. I know he's got plenty to talk about. And I just felt like, as a result of that little, the Tic Tac video, so to speak, that UAP that looked like a Tic Tac.
Sure.
And looking at this is like, this is the thing you're talking about, and just kind of belittling it. I get where he was coming from, but I feel that once the Navy kind of vindicated and said, yeah, we actually have no idea what that is. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been a nice moment for Joe to be like, hey man, I thought you were nuts. I take it back. Granted, that doesn't mean there was an alien in the craft, but the fact that it was something that the U.S. government can't define or has no idea what it is, I think says a lot. It's almost worse if it's not an alien, in my opinion.
Okay, so like, what's your take on aliens?
Well, my take, regardless of Tom and any sort of conversations we've had, I've always been of the belief that there's way too much out there for us to be the only living beings. It's a matter of odds. The odds, I mean, how do you even calculate odds if everything is supposedly infinite? So there has to be something else out there. And that, of course, leads one to the question of, assuming there are things out there, are they like us? Are they vastly superior to us technologically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it? Or are there cave people out there who have no idea about anything? It could be all of the above. So you never know.
Wouldn't that be
But
crazy?
but let's assume that there are other beings that are equal to us. We've made it to space. Okay? That means they have the ability to make it to space. And at some point or another, if you're close enough, there's somewhere else to go. But these are just, in my opinion, logical assumptions. Now, that being said,
Yeah.
Tom talks about stuff every now and then where I'm just like, what are you talking about? But, he's got friends that I don't have. So there you go. But one thing I will say, regardless of any sort of detail, I think his passion for the subject is delightful.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's got a whole. Wasn't he making a documentary, or didn't he make like a documentary about like?
Probably.
Yeah.
He's doing so many things and always has. So I'm just like, huh?
There could be aliens here right now.
There could be.
You never know.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
We're gonna switch gears here a little bit. So you said you're working on your fourth movie. I'm not aware of the other three.
They're not out yet.
Oh, well, that would be why.
And one of them is Tom's, actually.
Okay.
California. Yeah, maybe that's what you're thinking of. It's not a documentary. Monsters of California is a sort of coming-of-age adventure that, of course, has aliens in it, other sorts of supernatural beings and entities,
Oh.
government secrecy, all the fun you would expect to come from the mind of Tom DeLonge. But it was a lot of fun to work on. And I'm actually excited for that to finally see the light of day, because from a compositional perspective, it was a lot of fun to split myself between a very specific sort of orchestral adventure score and an electronic score that was able to work in more modern, somber scenes. And when I say somber, I don't mean sad. I just mean like intense. It was probably a better word.
Okay.
So it was a lot of fun to write it's almost like two different scores to make sense of this kind of movie. And I don't mean that my score is what makes sense of the movie, but you have all these different emotions that are woven with the storyline that you have to find the proper accompaniment musically to make it less of a sort of amalgamation of all these different things. It's kind of like
Sure.
ingredients in food. It's not really food until you put it all together often enough. That was a weird analogy, but you get my point.
No, yeah, I get it. Did you make this over like? Did you make it over COVID? Like while
Yeah.
that was happening? Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And it was odd because my brother Aaron wrote some stuff for the movie as well, and he actually got started on it before I did. And Tom basically wanted to lay out a foundation of the type of tonality he was looking for. So in a sense, I almost had a bigger uphill battle as the composer. You know what demoitis is?
I'm assuming it's where you add too many things to your demo.
No, it's when you get so used to the demo that
Oh, okay.
things may be a little off-putting. And I'm not saying that demoitis is really what I had to deal with too often. It was more of two people putting out this idea and then me having to go, okay, I see what you're saying, but I think it should be this. And then finding a way to bring both of those ideas together into something that we were all happy with.
Okay.
So it was interesting.
Demoitis. I've never heard of that before.
It's a good one.
I'm gonna have to start diagnosing my friends with that.
Yeah, there you go.
Got a case, man. I'm assuming over COVID, did you work like in isolation then?
Yeah, pretty much in this room.
Oh wow.
Yeah, not leaving the house was very easy for me. It was too easy for me, actually.
Oh really?
I feel less insensitive saying this now, but lockdown was great for me. I loved it. And I was able to, fortunately, I have the personality to just stay at home. For the extroverts out there, I did feel bad for them.
Mhm.
But I like being at home and I like focusing on whatever it is I feel like focusing on. So, as I said at the very beginning of this, once we all realized that COVID wasn't going to be over in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I realized, okay, I've actually been given a gift of time here that I've never had, because for the who knows how many years pre-pandemic, my life had ping-ponged between touring and then writing and recording my own music at home. So I never had the time to just say, I'm not doing anything, so I'm going to study film scoring. And it's something I had wanted to do for a long time because, as I mentioned earlier, my love of Mozart and just classical music in general, I've always loved orchestral scores, especially those of John Williams, which most people do, whether they know it or not. But I've always seen film music is that medium where you can completely get away with writing orchestrally, writing electronically, writing with organic instrumentation, and somehow all of that stuff lives in the same space for the same purpose of supporting whatever it is that's happening on screen. So I really enjoyed it, but I am enjoying it. I'm just very thorough, and I know a lot of people just like they can say, cool, I bought a guitar a month ago, I can start a band. A lot of people get into the scoring space and like, I got some plugins, I can do stuff. And I'm not saying that you can't. That's not my point, but I'm not that kind of person. So I bought and went through a stack of books, and I'm going through another stack of books and tutorials, and so many things on the internet are great to learn from, but I really wanted to put in my due diligence, if you will, and really learn the craft. And I'm always learning. I think anybody who cares about always trying to do their best is always learning.
Are you still trying to learn the cello?
I never wanted to learn the cello, although it's an awesome instrument. I was asked by Trent if I could, and my answer was not yet, but what are you looking for? And yeah, there are three pieces that we have played since about 2013. Wow. A couple of Nine Inch Nails songs, and actually one Nine Inch Nails song, a film score piece, and a How to Destroy Angels song. Luckily for me, coincidentally, they were all in the same key. So the same three notes that I had to play, I'm like, I got this.
Oh, snap.
So, yeah, but yeah, I took lessons for a while after rehearsals on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Kind of gets a bit blurry, but it's a phenomenal instrument. It's one of those things where the barrier to entry is far greater than the guitar, or even, I mean, the piano is the quickest barrier to entry. You can hit a key and it's going to hit the same note whether you hit it or I hit it.
Yeah.
Play a fretted instrument, you have to get used to the pressure you have to apply so you can hit a clean note. But when you're playing an unfretted, fretless instrument, that you need the right technique to rub horsehair on it at the right angle to not get a screech. It's just, there's so much.
The vibrato too.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
I commend a string virtuoso of any kind.
So you play bass, you play guitar, you play drums, you play piano, and you sing. I mean, I think you got it all, man. You've conquered it all.
I bought a clarinet at the top of the pandemic because I was reading these orchestration manuals, and I was like, you know what? I've actually never played a wind instrument of any kind, brass, nothing. Certainly not a reed instrument. So I bought one, and I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play this. But then I was like, I have better things to do with my time. So I was able to play one little 5-note run up and down slowly, sounded okay. And I was like, I'm gonna actually use my time on that.
I'm gonna pass on this one.
Same thing with the violin. I tried it when I was, I don't know, maybe 17, and I could play a fairly poorly intonated G scale up and down and a major scale in the first position. And I was like, for me to get good at this, I would have to spend far more time than I have. So I recognize that. But fortunately for the other instruments you mentioned that I play well, I did it at the early years of my life where I was able to just pick it up naturally and put in the time.
Are you releasing new regime music?
Ilan Rubin music.
Oh, excuse me.
That's all right. Yeah, but I am. Yeah, so I put out a few songs last year and the year before, but this year I'm going to be on a more regimented sort of release schedule. So I've got 3 in the bag right now that'll be coming out every 3 or 4 weeks. And as those are coming out, I will be writing the next batch to release after that. But the goal is to put out a new song every 3 to 4 weeks for the entirety of next year.
Sweet. Will they sound kind of like the new regime, since that's kind of your like?
I mean, I'm sure there's something inherently there because it is coming from me, but
Yeah.
But it'll continue to be different from one song to the next.
Dope.
I've enjoyed not having to think about anything in an album format. So if I write one song that is drastically different to the one preceding it, it doesn't matter because they don't technically have to live next to each other.
All right. So if you guys want to hit him up on Instagram, are you on Twitter?
I am. I should use it more. I was hacked for a solid week, and it was weirdly disturbing because, I mean, it sounds funny, but the person converted my page into a front for selling PS5s right for the holidays. But the disturbing part was that even though he had changed the background to the Twitter profile and changed the name and everything, he was approaching people through the DMs as me and basically saying like, yeah, if you buy a PS5, I'll send you a signed pair of sticks. I'll have my assistant send them out, as if I have a fucking assistant. And that was dark, watching how many people fell for it and how many people he was trying to dupe. It felt dirty, and I had nothing to do with it. But thankfully, my wife knows plenty of people and was like, we need to get him his account back. And she did. So if it weren't for her, I'd still be selling PS5s, man.
Did you guys ever like find out who was doing it? Like who the person was behind it?
No.
Oh man.
Low life asshole somewhere.
All right. So where else can people check you out at?
Obviously on all the streaming services. Ilan Rubin is what the latest music has been released as. There's all the new regime stuff, as you said. But yeah, I will be releasing new music under Ilan Rubin. You know, I hate to say it, but after being bullied by my 2 female managers who are both younger than me, I did have to start a TikTok. But you know, I try to put out some good, informative, inspiring things out there, all revolving around, you know, music, dogs. I'm not out there dancing with my shirt off, pointing at stuff, but I'm there as well. So if you venture to look for me in the social media universe, you will find me. But yeah, Ilan Rubin Music is what that is. YouTube. There you go. Everything funnels back to YouTube. So yep, Ilan Rubin Music.
Sweet. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on.